President, remarkable Truth Social post yesterday on Russia and Ukraine, saying the Ukrainians should try to win the war, that the U.S. and Europe will help with that, and that Russia is a paper tiger. Here's some of the reactions since then. Here's the Russian said, 111, please. The Russian reaction was, didn't love it, I'd say in Moscow, didn't love it. Reuters, Russia says it's advancing in Ukraine and its economy is stable after Trump calls it, quote, a paper tiger. And here's a quote to the BBC, what Sean calls the Beeb, from the Russian Kremlin spokesperson. Moscow gave Donald Trump a zoology lesson Wednesday, insisting that Russia is, quote, a bear and not a paper tiger on the geopolitical stage. Here's the quote from Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov to the BBC. Quote, Russia is by no means a tiger. Russia is traditionally seen as a bear. There's no such thing as paper bears. Russia is a real bear. Sounds like a great children's story. And here is the president's former national security advisor, freshly minted UN ambassador, former Congressman Mike Waltz on Fox and Friends, explaining the president's change of rhetoric. 112, please.
Well, I think you're seeing the president's frustration and disappointment, frankly, with Putin. He has made innumerable calls. We had the summits in Saudi Arabia, in Turkey, in Alaska, obviously. And look, at the end of the day, Putin has to end this war. The president has made it very clear his intent. And what you're seeing now is with the president's urging, you're seeing Europe increasingly stepping up. They're now committing 5% of their GDP, which for years, it was it wasn't even just half, it was just a third. That was meeting the bare minimum of 2%. So they're stepping up, they're buying our weapons, they're taking more responsibility for their security, and eventually, one way or another, Putin's going to get the message. And one other point, Brian, that I think is that we have to hammer, and the president hammered home in his speech yesterday, Europe can't be buying Russian oil and gas at the same time they're demanding help to fight this war. And that has to stop.
And do you also believe we have to lift?
All right, and here's a ravish review from a former Secretary of State and presidential candidate, Hillary Rodham Clinton, appearing on Morning Joe. Please play number 113.
Well, I have to say, Joe, I welcomed what the president said yesterday. I thought that given all the back and forth that we have seen and heard at Anchorage and elsewhere, his coming to grips with the fact that Vladimir Putin does not respond to any kind of rhetoric. He only responds to strength. And you have to show strength, you have to back strength, you have to be strong in order to deal with him. And he poses a clear and present danger to all of Europe and therefore to the United States. And I think if what President Trump said yesterday is, if we help Ukraine can hold the line and may even be able to push Russia back. And there was a very interesting comment that Trump made in his Truth Social post. He said, what kind of military does Russia have?
Exactly.
They couldn't even take over Ukraine. This has been a point I've been trying to make now for a long time. We overestimated Russia's military strength.
So I love journalistic cliches, so I'll use one here. The president's Truth Social post, in some ways, raised more questions than it answered. Where's the sanctions bill? What kind of military aid? What kind of role will the U.S. play in dealing with Europe? And some are speculating that this is just simply a verbiage meant to try once again to get Putin to the negotiating table. So, Dan, where does the world stand in facing down Putin in the wake of the president's words on social media?
First off, I love Hillary Clinton. God, she would have been a great president. Mark, I think you just said it. Everyone's now curious. What does Donald Trump really think? I mean, he says so many things, but then he doesn't back it up. So is he now really all in? Are we going to truly start pushing arms to Europe? I know he doesn't want to directly give them to the Ukrainians. So are we going to give them a discount to Europe to buy them, to send them to Ukraine? Are we going to authorize strikes into Russia? Like, how much are we all in to defeat Putin? Because otherwise, Hillary is 100% right. Putin has no respect for words, only action.
Sean, this is, the president tweets and posts on Truth all sorts of things, for a decade. I found that to be one of the most extraordinary statements, to go from, threatening to give up on Ukraine to being more bullish on their chances of winning than Joe Biden was. So what do you think accounts for what the president did? And again, where do you think we're headed next?
I think what accounts for, I mean, I've been saying this consistently, that he says it very openly. He really thought that his relationship with Putin would be instrumental in solving this. And that's why he was willing to meet him somewhere, I think, realistically, which is what we've talked about, which is you'll get some land, which is probably more than you've ever been, but that's a realistic end game. And I think reasonable people thought that actually that would be a win, and it would have been a massive win for Russia. Historically, laying out some precedent that you can attack a sovereign nation, take their land, and walk away. So I think the president rightly thought that his relationship with Putin would yield some outcome that would have benefited him. And I think he, by taking it too far, especially the comment that we didn't play yet is when he was asked point blank, should NATO countries whose airspace, et cetera, is infringed upon retaliate? And he said, absolutely. So it's actually, he's going farther than that. And I think he's been pushed too far. He's been proven that Putin doesn't want a deal, and of any kind, frankly. And that I will say Zelensky and the Europeans have played this a lot smarter than they did initially, where they've allowed to say, we'll play it your way. We'll allow you to develop your relationship. And at some point, we're going to make you kind of come to the light instead of us forcing you to that. And the president has gotten there yet. So,
right. Rank Dan first, then Sean. Rank these three things in order of likelihood, from most likely to least likely. There's a peace negotiations between Putin and Zelensky, with whether Trump's there or not. There's a face-to-face peace negotiations. 2, the sanctions bill passes in the Senate, secondary sanctions against India and China. Or 3, there's a U.S.-backed broad military offensive on the part of Ukraine, trying to retake land.
Can I add a fourth?
Sure.
I think that what the president has said, and frankly, I agree, and I think most, is that Europe, we can't be the ones that do this alone. If we do it and Europe keeps buying gas and oil from them, then it's kind of pointless.
So what's the fourth?
The fourth is that Europe shows that they'll actually step up to the plate and stop funding Russia.
So European.
But none of that will happen without that.
Okay, so European energy cutoff of Russia, Senate sanctions bill, peace negotiations, broad offensive backed by the U.S. Dan, most likely to least likely.
They're all not going to happen.
They're all equally not happening.
Correct. Nope.
Sean.
I think so. Russia, because if nothing happens, if Europe doesn't cut off Russia, nothing else happens. So that has to go first by definition.
Right.
Second, either sanctions, Senate sanctions, or administration sanctions is 2, and then the other 2 are none.
Okay.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.